was thinking over Shabbat.
So,
You
so
know,
you mentioned to me about this one kind of you mentioned it three times the something that you wanted to say about
time and space.
yeah something about time and space and Mashiach or something.
Yeah, yeah. So this is partly speculation,
Hmm.
and I'll mention when the speculation begins. But here's what I actually learned from Rebbeim, people like Rav Dov Ber Pinson and others when discussing this topic. Okay.
By the way, we're live on Facebook now. I somehow got it to work.
Oh, all right, you got it. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
So Rabbi Baxt discusses it.
Hmm.
Rabbi Pinson, probably Rav Bart Tzadok, and others. Okay, over the years, I've heard this idea that um, that Gan Eden, the Garden of Eden,
Hmm.
was a reality that was it didn't experience time the way we experience time.
Hmm.
We experience time in a linear fashion in one direction,
Hmm.
right? If you can imagine a timeline, we're moving to the right,
Hmm.
right? But you can't stop the time, the moments are moving forward, and you can't go backwards.
Yeah.
Now, the experience of time in Gan Eden was different. Um, Apparently, you could have access to the entire timeline.
Hmm.
So, what does that mean? Well, you can go back in time, yes, but how is that possible? So, physics, they talk about this pretty often too. They say that that the time, every point in time it still currently exists.
Hmm.
So there's an overall reality or an underlying reality,
Yeah.
right? Like imagine a big bubble. We're in that bubble, right?
Yeah.
Everything that you've ever known or ever will know, or everything that exists or could possibly exist is within this bubble. That bubble has no time. It is now. It's all
Hmm.
one big moment.
Hmm.
Within that timeline, there's this experience within, I'm sorry, within that overall reality, there's a timeline but that timeline exists within it.
Hmm.
The existence itself doesn't exist on the timeline.
Hmm.
So you're in this overall existence bubble, let's say, and there's a timeline inside of it. And in reality, this is what physics says generally. There's no reason why, if we can figure out how to do it, why we can't have access to each one of those moments in time, because each moment in time is associated with a point in space.
Hmm.
There's no separation. There can be no time unless it's connected to a piece of space,
Yeah.
meaning some kind of geographic location,
Hmm.
which means that that those moments that you spent playing Sega with
Yeah.
your buddies or with your brother in that little room,
Hmm.
that you were playing like
Yeah.
Choplifter and Afterburner, right? That is still that still exists now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hmm.
Now, so it's a current reality that's available
Yeah.
to figure out how to get there. But we won't have to figure it out after Mashiach finishes preparing the world, probably around the year 6000. We perhaps can begin experiencing that aspect of reality where uh, every moment in the past, certainly of our own lives, but even probably even beyond that, previous lives or whatnot, will be available to us.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, in order to experience a point in time and space, you have to be aware of it, like a location, right? Like you can't
Yeah.
go to that cool, deep house party
Yeah.
unless you know how to get to that little lounge that doesn't have a sign.
Hmm.
To that cool, like underground party for VIPs. Like no
Yeah.
bridge and tunnel, no bridge
Yeah.
and tunnel crowd whatsoever.
Yeah.
Just the chillest people ever, and they're not trying to advertise it. So how are you going to find that place? You got to know You have to be made aware of the existence of such a thing. Okay. So my point is that when we begin experiencing traveling along the timeline, like in the other direction, we're probably gonna, begin with our own lives, because you know how to find those moments.
Yeah.
You remember where they were.
Yeah.
Right. So how do you travel? Now this part, okay. Now this part this is where the speculation begins. Believe it or not, like you'd think that it started a while ago, but no. So I think that when let's say we go back to that time when we're playing video games, right? In 1989, whatever.
Yeah.
In my bedroom on Coney Island Avenue, and between U and T.
Yeah.
Okay. So if once I go there, right, my consciousness travels there and I enter into myself as it was expressed at that point in time and space, meaning
Yeah.
I'm 8.
Yeah.
I'm in my 8-year-old body. I'm there with my 8-year-old not consciousness, but my 8-year-old brain. And my
understanding, seichel, whatever it is.
Well, here's where I think the difference is when after Moshiach comes. I think that we perhaps go there when we revisit. We come there with our full consciousness, as we were when we entered the timeline. Okay, but you're there, you're still there. So how does that consciousness become expressed through an 8-year-old brain and an 8-year-old body, right? Perhaps that's an interesting question. So are we like, are we exactly the same crusty, salty old man? Like I was 8 years old then, but now I'm a bitter, longshoreman with a salty vernacular. You know what I mean? So does that, so I don't think that that's what happens. It's not like those movies where people change bodies and all of a sudden, like, there's a couple of those movies in the 80s. Remember, like
like Fred Savage and Judge Reinhold.
Yeah, so I think you're exactly.
Yeah.
I think that was vice versa.
Vice versa.
Like Father Like Son is with Kirk Cameron and Dudley Moore.
Yes.
That was the big one. That was the really famous one.
Yeah. 1987.
Yeah.
And Sean Astin was in that movie too.
Yeah, he was the boner in that movie. Remember Boner?
I don't know if I even saw this movie. Maybe I need to watch it.
For the folks at home, Kirk Cameron played in a iconic 80s show called Growing Pains.
Oh yeah.
Huge, and his best friend there,
like sidekick, like a cockroach.
That was Cockroaches on Family Matters.
Yeah, no, I know.
But wait, was it Family Matters or was it
no, Cockroaches on Bill Cosby?
Was it Cosby Show? Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Family Matters was there's Eddie is the son.
Eddie is the son.
And then you had Waldo.
Waldo, that's
Waldo,
right.
Waldo Faldo.
Right. Waldo was like the Kimmy Gibbler.
Yes.
He was like the black male.
Black Kimmy Gibbler. Exactly.
They were very similar, by the way. Those two
guys. Very.
Yeah.
I thought they were gonna do like spin-offs where they date.
You know what my parents used to tell me? I was like, they're like, oh, she's such a pretty girl. When I was a kid, I'm like, Kimmy Gibbler.
No good.
When I was a kid, but then but now, she was a very pretty girl. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
it's all right. Yeah, sort of.
You know what I mean? She was just a goofy character.
Yeah,
it didn't seem attractive, but anyway, so basically, so Boner was Kirk Cameron's friend and sidekick on the Growing Pains, and that was totally okay in the 80s because the word boner wasn't solidified entirely for the whole world as a male erection.
Yeah.
Okay, it was just boner as in he's a bonehead, that kind of thing.
Yep.
So it was a more innocent time, therefore, right? Okay. So, but anyway, so when when you go back in time, even though, so I think you become 8 again,
Mm-hmm.
and you have that, but you can access the wisdom
Yeah.
of the longshoreman that you became.
You know how to articulate what it is that you're feeling. That's right. I
Right.
think that's really the crux of the whole thing.
Yeah. And here's another thing, okay? And this actually, now we're leaving speculation again, because I had literally heard Rabbi Kessin say this. He said that everything, one thing about the times of Moshiach is that, and after, I assume,
Mhm.
is that your potential is completely unleashed.
Yeah.
So what does that mean? So if think about all the moments that you have gone through in your life.
Mm-hmm.
How many of those moments have we actually fulfilled the full potential? In my life, I could say 0.
I don't know about 0, but I'd say a couple, but it's like the most frustrating thing for me, it was like moments where they showed me what's possible, like where I fulfilled the potential of whoever I was at that moment for a very short period of time. And then I didn't, for whatever reason, either I didn't follow through, or the opportunity to follow through was snatched away from me for whatever reason. Circumstantial. Usually it's like circumstantial, and then
Right.
it's like, and then either people or family members ask me, why did you stop doing X, Y, and Z? Why did you not continue with this? You were so good at that. You could have been so good at that.
Yeah.
Whether it was like tennis, or I had like, I don't know, stand up, or this, it's like everybody was like, oh my God, like,
Dude,
there was like that, there was like that, oh my God moment. And then like,
by the way, when you
didn't...
move here, like, it's time to start playing tennis. Like, seriously.
Dude, are you kidding me? Yeah.
I've
just need to...
I've been waiting for a tennis
You
player.
play? You play?
I don't play, but I did play, and I want to play again.
When you say you did play, I played competitively.
I did not
like...
play. No, I did not play
Yeah.
competitively. There was a period of time.
Mhm.
This is after I got married,
Mhm.
where I would go literally every single morning, obsessively,
Nice.
play tennis against a couple of my friends. Some of the guys that you might be
Sir,
associated
be careful
with.
what you wish for, because you might just get a Hasidic version of Federer.
I don't care.
Be careful what you wish for.
I just want to play, and I became obsessed with defeating those people that I played with.
You're gonna have top spins fly by your ears.
Under all, dude. Listen to me. Under all, like, conditions. Like, I was injured. I was. Tennis became a very unhealthy obsession.
Oh,
and this is without me even training how to play, just hitting the ball back.
Yeah. Well, sir, like I said, be careful what you wish for.
And there's a point where it was really like getting me into better shape, but then it got so aggressive that I actually began injuring myself.
Yeah, that's funny.
I swung the pendulum swung in the other direction.
Speaking of Avigdor Lieberman, I heard that he plays tennis. And I was apparently supposed, like, when I was working for that organization in Israel, I was supposed to, there was like some future, like,
you're right. He certainly looks like he plays tennis.
Oh yeah, buddy.
He does not look like
he looks like people hit he looks like people are instructed to hit directly to him so that he can return it.
Yeah.
AKA so that he doesn't have to move around too much. That's what he looks like.
Norm Macdonald played tennis. He talks about a story where he beat John Lovitz, and it just drives John Lovitz crazy. It's like, whatever. But just before we get too far away from the point, I just want to say that the reason I said that I personally, I can only speak for myself, have never experienced any moments to their full potential, is because we don't have an inkling as to what any circumstance, any event in our life, any moment in time and space that we've experienced, what that moment would be like with all of the limitations that are normally put on us lifted. Meaning, without the snake poison, without the Zohama. For the folks at home, This idea of snake poison, of the Zohama, this like corruption, right, was introduced to the world when Adam and Chava ate from the quote unquote tree of good and evil. That's how it's incorrectly translated, but just for familiarity. Okay. So that changed the universe. That act fundamentally introduced what can only be described or like this idea of snake poison. In the modern parlance can only be described as entropy. This concept in physics.
Yeah.
Organized systems tend to break down over time.
Yeah.
That was not the case with reality before Adam and Eve ate from the tree.
Yeah.
Things did not break down. Entropy did not exist. Okay, so if you can imagine an existence where entropy is not an issue, we can't picture that.
Yeah.
There's no way to relate to that kind of thing. Okay. So that's why I'm saying we've never experienced the full potential of any moment, because it's so far beyond what we can picture that we wouldn't even know how to recognize it if we saw it. Okay. So here's what I'm proposing. Imagine that you can go back to a point in time, and here's an easy one to relate to. And, everyone has experiences, hopefully. When you're a young person, depending on when this happened to you, and you fall in love with someone.
Yeah.
Okay. What to adults could seem like puppy love or something like that. When you first feel very powerful feelings for someone that you like.
Yeah.
Okay. So there's nothing more important if you can remember as a kid, right, how it felt, like how much you wanted to impress the girl or the guy, right? And the regret and the disappointment that you felt when you couldn't present yourself the way you wanted to present yourself,
or the way the way you see yourself,
the way you felt that you needed to be
in
order to, right? And you didn't get a chance to do that
as opposed to that guy who can do it naturally. The guy that you saw do it naturally with the girl that you liked or whatever it is.
All right, Greg.
Does that make no? I'm saying that happens, right?
Thanks for bringing that into this.
No, because that's like the most common experience.
Different forms of that. I just labeled that as part of the disappointment.
Yeah. No, I get it.
Right.
Okay.
So yeah, that is real, but I just wanted to focus on this simple idea, because this whole idea is very difficult to unpack.
Yeah.
So imagine having the ability to present yourself in the way that you feel is the correct way to present yourself to the person that to relive that moment, but to do it right.
Yeah.
So I know what that sounds like to people, right? A lot of times people are going to say, well, you didn't have the right perspective on it at the time, and the way that you felt the ideal way to experience that moment is not really the ideal. The way that you actually experienced it was the point after all. Perhaps, but not forever.
Yeah.
Here's my overall speculation. So here's what I'm saying. I'm saying that every moment that we've ever experienced in life has been a trailer.
Yeah, of course.
And that we have not started life yet. Life has actually not.
So here's my question. Even the people who are, seemingly, achieve this, that, and the other, kids, wife, even those guys?
Yeah.
Even Novak Djokovic, who was the number one tennis player in the world, won everything possible. This, that, and the other. He still has a trailer.
Yeah.
That's a trailer?
That's just a trailer, yeah. Can I explain?
Okay.
So apparently, based on what I've like read, the biggest possible secrets of existence and the actual point of existence has never been able to been explored yet, and that is the physical.
Yeah.
When you talk to religious people and Jewish people, they're always about the spiritual, but in reality, the spiritual is really just a stepping stone to get to the physical. And what is the physical?
Mm-hmm.
Apparently, God infused his essence, his very essence,
Mm-hmm.
into the physical realm. Apparently, it's the physical substances that are the most important. That's the point. All of that is going to be revealed. All of that is going to be opened up. That means that the slightest grain of dust somewhere in the physical universe is more important than all the heavens put together.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we can't wrap our minds around that. Like, how can a grain of dust? Like, why is that grain of dust so important to God? Why did he infuse his essence into what we call physical material?
Yeah.
We don't know.
Yeah.
That's what we're going to find out.
Mm-hmm.
So when Djokovic
Hmm.
is going to recall a moment at some point in his life when he's holding a tennis racket,
Yeah.
right? So I want you to realize that we're going to have, I believe, control over the rate at which time passes. That means you can go to any moment and essentially pause it.
Mm-hmm.
And you could look around.
Mm-hmm.
You could sit there for what might feel like a trillion, a quadrillion years, and just study every little tiny aspect of everything that you see around you. The way the light hits the tennis court, the glint of it off of the tennis racket.
It's almost like when you're playing a video game and you pause it and you can look at the scene.
Yeah,
it's interesting.
You have to study each frame as a communication from God, and extract all the information there. And it will be absolutely, each moment of that exploration will be the most excitement and the most profundity you've ever experienced. And it only goes from it only gets higher. Mm-hmm. The more you learn, the more you understand about everything that you're going to see in the future and everything that you've seen before.
Yeah.
You understand? Like, each time
Mm-hmm.
your consciousness expands exponentially.
Yeah.
So, and that goes on for infinity. Okay. So just to give you, you know what, we're going all over the place. Let's start it in a simple way. Okay, I'll give you just an example. Then you can extrapolate from there what it might be like. And remember, folks, what I'm about to say is this is stuff that we can kind of relate to. Okay?
Yeah.
Most of the things we're going to experience, we cannot even imagine how, like, okay, so but let's get started. Let's say you're sitting in your kitchen on some, I don't know, Saturday afternoon. Okay, you're just sitting there, you're kind of spaced out, right? And you notice the light is coming into the kitchen, and you see a light shadow on the surface of the table, a little bit on the counters, and on the floor.
Mm-hmm.
But you notice some of the light shadows are brighter than others, right? And they're kind of like moving in this pattern, and they're touching specific areas in your kitchen. And then you receive a revelation. Somebody tells you that all light that comes from the sun in those kind of rays is the angel Michael communicating with you. Mm-hmm. You didn't know that in your life, right?
Yeah.
As you went through your life, you've seen these billions of times. You had no idea that someone was talking to you.
Yeah.
Had you known that, you might have begun the process of trying to interpret what is being said.
Access and interpret.
So then, you can employ for instance, the idea of common sense. So, all right, so the brightest light, beams, right? That is touching the surfaces on your kitchen. Maybe that is the primary emphasis. That's where he wants you to put all of your attention. What is the light shining on? He wants you to focus on that. Ask yourself what it is. Why does he want you to look at it? Right. And then once you figure that out, go to the next brightest spot that you can spot and figure that out. And then so on and so forth. So now you've gathered this information, his communication, what he wanted you to look at and what it is that he's looking at it. And then you start the process of trying to think, well, why does he want me to look at that? And then you start thinking, and then you get further clarifications in this process.
Yeah.
And that's just one idea of there's one angel that's communicating with you in a certain way. What other aspects of reality are communicating with you, right? Let's say all the wood that you see in the room is sent by some other angel, whatever, just like every piece of wood, every piece of natural wood that you see in the room is an angel communicating with you. How does he communicate? Well, you have to study the grain, the flow of the grain, right? You have to start paying attention to that. And whatever, you see what I'm saying, right? Everything that you see around you, every little physical bit of anything is the most profound thing you can possibly imagine. So now you have to freeze frame every aspect of reality, every moment that you've ever experienced, and really, really get into it. Then, once you have extracted that information of every aspect, let's say one frame takes a quadrillion years to completely extract the information. First of all, it doesn't even matter because time is not time anymore.
Takes what seems like quadrillions.
Yeah, it would in our like limited state of mind right now, it would feel like a quadrillion years. But I don't think we're going to be feeling things like that. We're just going to be so immersed in the experience that time is no longer a thing. Okay, so your life and the moments that you've experienced is your anchor into the existence that God has created and your ability to explore it. So you haven't lived your life yet. You've just had a preview of what you're going to use to live your life. So that's what I think.
Interesting.
And just one final thing. So once you have.
So is there a fundamental difference between, somebody who, again, ostensibly, reached quote unquote their potential in this world, pre-Moshiach, versus somebody who, let's say, did not? Because there has to be a difference, because according to you, there is no difference between us and Djokovic. We're all experiencing preview, but he's experiencing a deeper, so to speak, preview.
Yeah, there is a difference.
Okay,
it's the starting point. So we get this idea that we hear this all the time, that everybody who gets into Olam Haba, right? We're not all going to be on the same level. You've heard Rabbi say that.
Of course.
And so the question is, what does that mean, and who the hell cares?
Yeah.
Those are two important questions, because there's also not going to be any jealousy.
Yeah.
And there's not going to be any envy.
Yeah, like I can't believe that guy has whatever.
Right. Yeah. So what's the point? So the question is, what's the point for levels?
Well, levels, and also what's the point of, like, quote unquote achieving, like people like to say, maximizing our potential in this world?
Because I believe it's all about the starting point. So just to kind of, before I get into that, I just wanted to just wrap up a point that I forgot to mention. So when you let's get back to Djokovic. So let's say he studies one frame of a moment, right, and absorbs every bit of thing that there is to absorb there.
Yeah.
That doesn't change the feeling of the moment itself. Meaning, like, that there's something about that moment when he hit the ball,
Yeah.
right? And that feeling that he experienced in his life,
Yeah.
that is still a theme throughout this entire process of discovery. That doesn't go away. That's not like just some kind of thing where that was that's how I felt when it was happening, but now I've transcended it and there's so much more. No, there's still a framework within that feeling. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, I don't know how.
I get it.
Like, that doesn't disappear. Like the
Yeah.
moment when you let's say had your first kiss, or the first time you held a little girl's hand, whatever, right?
Yeah.
That everything that you learn about the freeze frame, that moment, only fits within the context of that feeling.
Yeah.
You learn more about that feeling.
Yeah.
That's what you're actually, that's the primary.
Well, psychiatrists talk, I think Freud even used to talk about that kind of stuff. That we're just trying to, like, we formulate, it's like narrative, when they do like narrative therapy, we formulate narratives. And all we're trying to do really is just like recreate narratives, like or it's a typical thing of like when I'm when you're dating, or at least in my, I mentioned this many times, like all I'm trying to do is just, and people tell me, oh, you're not gonna have that, and I in Russian say uprямо, like stubbornly, I can, I have, and I will, and I'll be damned if I don't. And not only that, I see no point to if it's not.
So what you're
a waste of time if there isn't that.
I'm saying what you want is what will be. Yeah.
This is what these schmucks don't understand.
But not necessarily when you want it to be.
Of course. And it won't be even identical. It'll be similar, or it'll be what it will be in the same, let's say, category, quote unquote category, based on my current consciousness. It'll be more mature, obviously. It'll be a more mature kind of expression, but it will be there.
I don't.
It must be there. Again, if it won't be there, then it's then anything, it's like Charles Barkley. Anything else will be uncivilized.
But listen, what is there? What was there is there. Meaning, if it was there, then it is there.
Yeah, of course.
You will explore it.
Yeah.
Right. And you will learn more about the reality of that moment and actually how you felt. What
that like means, and why it's important, like why it's important for me to have that.
Yeah, we may, yes, that's right. But it's very different than Freud or any kind of psychoanalysis, because somehow that moment that Djokovic hits the ball with the tennis racket, or the first time you touch that girl's hand, that you will be learning what is the God part of it. Yeah. What is it why is that important to God? Yeah, meaning as opposed to my whatever, like carnal no, but even your carnal stuff, what is that to God? Yeah. No, I'm saying as opposed to just the carnal alone. Yeah. Without God. No, but even the carnal, I'm saying, I know. What is that? Like, that's an infinity to itself. I get it. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So it's all about what is it that God is saying. I'm gonna learn why God is, I don't say he's forcing me, but why is it that God will not remove from my, barring Chas v'Shalom, any kind of like medical condition, why he won't remove the memory that I have of, summer camp. I'm 13 years old, and I'm literally tasting the bubblicious that the girl was chewing. It's I know. It's freaking right. And what is bubblicious to God? It's freaking magic. What is bubblicious to God? Just why did he like Why did he put those particular colors together on the wrapper? What is a color?
Yeah.